Welcome to Faith Fondue, a podcast featuring author and educator Haley DeMaria and teacher and blogger Ann Strickers. Faith Fondue features a melting pot of topics ignited by a flame, our faith, and guided by the Holy Spirit. This is Season 4, Episode 24, and we made it, 24 episodes in 2024. It is December 30th, the penultimate day of 2024. Last week was Christmas. Yesterday was the Feast of the Holy Family. We are currently in day 6 of the octave. I think that's how you say it, of Christmas. We also have the 12 days of Christmas, lots of celebrating on the church calendar, and Merry Christmas. Let's get started with a little football talk. How are you?
Merry Christmas, and I love all of that commentary. There's so much right there, Haley. You just dropped liturgical references, cultural, so many different things, like the 12 Days of Christmas, the history behind that song. I kind of talked to somebody about the meaning for each one. I mean, we could go on with that. So yes, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Yes, Happy Football, okay. All of it. By the way, nice use of the word penultimate too.
So that is one of my favorite vocabulary words. One. Yep. I use it with my boys. Any chance I can get to use it with my boys, I will. They'll probably put it on my tombstone, but yeah, that's kind of a favorite vocabulary word of mine.
That's so funny. That's great. And the other thing is we should celebrate. I think anytime you make a goal. So we set out to do 24 episodes and we did. So
we did.
Cheers to I don't have a champagne glass, but if I were to have one, I have a glass of water. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
So, and in life you have to celebrate. Right?
Absolutely.
Goals that you achieve.
Absolutely. Yes. And we'll end with our takeaways and the melting pot at the end of our episode with some New Year's resolutions for 2025. But jumping right into it, lots gone on since we met last.
Notre Dame. So tell me about the game. So let's start with the first college football playoff game in Notre Dame football history.
Yes.
And you were there.
Yeah. Notre Dame football history, college football history. It was the first home playoff game ever. Certainly from Notre Dame's first home playoff game. I'm going to guess probably not our last. And it was, just the excitement of being there. We love it. We love Notre Dame. We love being there. My family loves it. I had a lot of friends, teammates. My kids had a lot of friends in town. It was really everything that football should be. It's a coming together to celebrate a common goal, brings us together in all the right ways. Notre Dame did win. That was really my only hope for the playoffs this year. Again, I'm trying not to get greedy. I wanted the home football game. I wanted the win. I got both of those. I'm very content with how the season has gone right now. Again, that may change come kickoff of the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day. But right now, I'm just really happy with where the program is, the way we're doing it, how we're playing. And it feels really good to be a Notre Dame fan right now.
It should. I think one of the stats that so many alumni and people have been talking about is the fact that 40 athletes, student athletes, lived up to that title and took exams that day before. And somebody, was it Riley Mills, had a presentation, just what people knew about the fact that while these students may be earning money for playing football, they are student athletes and they have obligations that go with it.
So I'm pretty sure every player took exams that week. The stat is 40 students took a test the day before the game. Yeah. So actually the day before the game, you had 40 student athletes taking a final exam. Yeah, that's pretty remarkable. You notice no other schools have pulled up any stats like that because my guess is it doesn't quite compare. And that's fine. I don't need other schools to be anybody. I just am happy with who Notre Dame is, happy with where we are. It is playoff season. The NFL is getting ready to head into their final couple weeks of play. For those of us who play fantasy, it is the Super Bowl weekend for fantasy teams. I am in 2 leagues, one with my colleagues at work. I am in the Super Bowl in that. We'll probably lose based on what's happened so far this weekend. But I'm in a battle for the league that I play with my kids and their friends. So in the Super Bowl there against one of my son's friends. So another 23-year-old. Yeah, it's fun. We played this league for 12 years since the kids were like 10. Wow. And
Yeah.
it's just it's common language. It's something to talk
Sure.
about. It's bragging rights. There's no money involved. It is all just for
Yeah.
fun. And again, it's kind of the best part of sport. It's bringing you together and sharing, kind of that common goal and excitement. So lots of good
That's
stuff.
yeah.
Lot of tough stuff goes on, in the football world, in the sports world. But this is I've
Yeah.
seen the best parts of
Great.
it the last couple weeks.
Sure. No, a friend of mine was 14-0 in his fantasy, and he was joking with me. He called me and he's like, I might need to get off because ESPN is going to be calling me. Yeah,
Ha!
because he had never done that well, and it was just a matter of time. And
It is. It
yeah,
is.
I think it is. It's really fun for people. Those bragging rights are real,
Oh
and
yeah, all
you
year.
know, I do think part of being a fan is a little bit of humility that nothing is above reproach. And I did hear, Haley, and please correct me. I did hear when IU took the field, I heard some booing.
Oh, you know what? I- I'm not going to say that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it to the point where I noted it. I'm not a big fan of
Okay.
booing, so I would
Yeah.
have. However, we were also sitting one section, in the section right next to the IU section.
Okay.
So we
Yes.
were on that side, which we don't normally sit on that side. We were actually almost directly catty corner from the student section. And
Yeah.
so we were very close to the IU section. So I don't know if we would have heard
Yeah.
that. Um, I
And
didn't,
the only
yeah.
reason I mention it is because I had made a point of it when Notre Dame played at USC, and I was so disgusted. And my friend who was with me said, "Oh, Ann, I don't know that we haven't done that." And I thought, no, that's not something that doesn't resonate with my experience as a student and as a fan at Notre Dame. Doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. And when I was watching the game, I was like, "Whoa!" And when you mentioned hard stuff, it's true. Football is it is such an emotional game. There's so much that's so fun, but then we've seen, and I don't feel the need to focus on it, some unsportsmanlike acts throughout the season by by a bevy of other teams.
Right.
So I'm not trying to say, I do think Notre Dame does a lot right, and I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud that two of the 32 players who were nominated for Walter Payton Man of the Year are players from Notre Dame.
Right.
So I love that stuff. I don't think Notre Dame would take a flag and plant it in the middle of somebody else's field like Michigan did at Ohio State. It doesn't mean that it couldn't happen, and I think that's a healthier approach. But I was just like, wait, what did I hear? And it wasn't loud. It wasn't loud, but I did hear it. And so I had to ask about that.
So I will say it was a very loud, engaged, active crowd.
And that was very obvious too. I want to
Yes.
say, yeah, it
Yes.
was, you could see it, you could hear it.
Yeah. There was a
Yes.
lot of emotion in that stadium. So if
That's
there
awesome.
was some booing, I'm going that doesn't surprise me because the emotion was just everyone was really fired up, which is
Yeah.
great. That's what it should
Right.
be.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
And maybe that's just, and I didn't hear it at like halftime. And maybe that's just part of like the drama, like the play
Right.
of it all. Like, hey, oh, these are the people who are, it's not like,
I want to be
of course,
loud, but it's the wrong
yeah.
team running on the field, so I have to make noise. Yeah.
I take USC stuff so personally. So, really it could be me, but that could be just part of the tradition. It's like we cheer for our own team, we boo the team that we don't like. It's all fun and games, right? Because that's part of like the contest. That is part of the drama. I
Right.
mean, that is part of like I watched the Cincinnati Denver game. I have no, there's no skin in the game for me whatsoever.
Right.
But, they came back and tied it. Denver did. And, you talked about the playoffs, like Cincinnati, if they win and
Yes.
then they need to win again, they are going to be a wild card. So it felt like a playoff game. And then the overtime was unreal. It was 10 minutes. I mean, I said to my dad, I said, this is why people love the NFL because
Yes.
it was unscripted. You can't, the kicker missed the 17-yard field
I
goal. Like,
know.
how is that possible?
Yeah.
And my friend's husband, who's from Cincy, so of course, part of why we love sports is it connects us to other people. I reach out to him. He's like, "What are you doing watching that game?" And he's like, "Enjoy your break." I'm like, "This is my break. Like, this is great."
Right. Right. I know. Speaking of that, how is your break? We're halfway through. I
Yeah.
think I go back a week from today.
Okay. Yes. And so I go back on Wednesday, so 2 days later.
Okay.
And it's been wonderful just to have this time. It feels like liminal space, like, like anything's possible. But I do think it begs the question, like, what makes for a good break? So, what are some things that maybe help anyone or just, in the time off? Like, what makes for a good break? And I don't know if we asked this question, but what is it? Why is it that we love the holidays? I mean, people love the holidays for religious meaning, but for traditions. There's so many traditions and customs, and I think that's what makes them just so special and
Mm-hmm.
memories and memorable and whatnot. But like, what makes for a good break? I think one is well, it's time off, it's relaxation and making a point of that. But going to a movie, we played a lot of cards like over the break, things that I might not do during, you know, ordinary time, if you will.
Right.
But I don't know, what comes to mind for you? I mean, you've been on break, you've had your boys home, you've
It,
had in-laws.
yep. So I'm thinking of two different topics here. What makes a good break and what makes good holidays?
Yes, I know. Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
very different
So,
there. So for me, a
right.
break, it is nice to not have a schedule, but to also have things to do. I am not someone who can just sit at home and veg on the couch all day, every day for an entire, let's say, week of vacation. That doesn't work for me. I need to get up. I need to work out. I need to go for a walk. Playing cards is something I can't just sit on the couch and doom scroll or watch TV. I could do
Right.
that for a day. We've
Yeah.
certainly the day after the college football, the Notre Dame game, we sat on the couch and watched the other college football games, and the Ravens played the Steelers that day. There was a lot of football, so I
Right.
I can do that. I can't do that for my whole break. I need to
Yep.
feel productive in some way, and productive could be baking, it could be playing cards. I went through our attic in our garage to clean out like something that I would not, you're right, not normally have the time to do during a busy work schedule. So yes, what makes a good break? Oh gosh, having the time to do things that I don't otherwise get to do. I love to go for long walks. I can't do a 5 mile walk during a work week. I could maybe do it on the weekends, but those are
Right.
busy too.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. It's been a little cold here, so I haven't gotten in as many as I would like, but I'll make a priority to do that. And just reconnecting with people that I don't always have the
Mhm.
time to connect with. So whether that's having family in town for holidays, or being able to spend 30 minutes on the phone with my brother, things like that are meaningful to me during breaks.
That's so true. Yeah, I think you framed that really well. Um, it is, I realize a lot of people don't have breaks. So I want to say that
Right.
with gratitude, appreciation, that is a benefit of working in a school. That's a well-known piece. And for people who have children or families, like they have their family at home during the break because of the school break. So
Right.
I'm cognizant of that. But that might be just a good question for listeners to consider, what makes for a good break. And you're right, it is a different question than what makes for a good holiday. But, part of why we love this holiday is because of its religious significance.
Yes.
So thoughts on the spiritual stew?
So I did go to mass after the home playoff game. Um, Notre Dame always has mass after football games. I was originally not going to go because everybody wanted to go home. It was late. It was close to midnight. Most of my
Oh,
family,
right.
right, most of my family ended up walking back to, just walking because the traffic was so bad. I was sitting in the car and I thought, this is silly. I could sit in the car for the next 45 minutes or I could go to church. So I parked. I got out of my car, parked, and went to mass at. I think we started. I don't know, 11:45, maybe closer to
Yeah.
midnight.
Right.
So I love that. It's one of the things I love about Notre Dame. Win or lose, you come together and find meaning in the mass. So I do love that. So it was, then of course Christmas Eve mass. I've been going to. I got up. I've been going to 7:30 mass at the church that we are now choosing to join. I think I've shared before. I've been church shopping since we moved and trying to figure out
Okay.
the parish I wanted to attend. And this past Sunday,
Yep.
gosh, which I guess was just yesterday, seems like a long time ago, I took advantage of sleeping in a little bit, did not go to 7:30 Mass, went to 9 o'clock Mass, which is a totally different dynamic. A lot more singing, which I enjoy, especially during the Christmas season. A lot more kids, a lot more families, a lot of kids at the 9 o'clock Mass, which makes sense. 7:30 might be early to get your kids up and out of the door. And so I noticed that. I noticed a lot of coming and goings. Kids have to go to the bathroom, so there's a lot of movement going in and out of the church during Mass. I give a huge shout out and kudos to parents who take their kids to Mass consistently. That is not easy to do with young kids. So the fact that they have shown up is a huge win. And the priest mentioned that, which I appreciated. A lot of crying babies. That doesn't bother me at all. I know for some people it does. Again, they brought their children to Mass. So cry away. I wanted to cry too. Our priest gave a 23-minute homily, which I just think is, and maybe I shouldn't be looking at the clock to see how long it is, but this one particular priest is very long-winded. And so I thought, okay, you've got kids in the audience now. How long are you really going to talk? Well, 23 minutes.
Yeah.
I think that's long. I think you're losing adults. Yeah. I think you're losing your audience, your message. You've got a captive audience there. Give them what they need in less than 23 minutes. I also thought, and every time I receive the Eucharist, one of the things I pray for, among other things, is to not judge as Jesus did not judge. And I am judging here, so I'm going to throw that out there, that I am going against everything that I ask myself to not do. But you have to know your audience. And I say this as one speaker to another speaker. You have to know who you're talking to. And when you are giving a homily to a room full, and I say room because this church is being redone, so we're actually in the gym, in a room or a group of families, I don't know if that's the right time to talk about being abused by family members. It was really, it was, he was talking about grace and forgiveness and families who are around in the holidays. And then he went into, but if you're abused by a family member, and I thought, do you know who you're talking to? You are talking to like 7-year-old kids here. And then I lost, and then he lost me. And then I was like, whoa, okay, this is going on way too long. He mentioned the devil a lot. It's okay. I'm not against talking about that, but I felt like he was scaring these kids. I don't know how excited I would have been for my little ones to have received that message. Now, maybe they weren't listening, but it was a lot. It was a lot for the Feast of the Holy Family. So there you go. That is my full confession of being very judgy, but there's such a different way to deliver a positive message in less than 23 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm done. Amen.
So, amen. I think if we were to ask the audience who has not had an experience where the homily just went on and on and on, I think that's probably a shared experience.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's hilarious in a way that the exact minute, 23 minutes. I would too. I went to a Mass in Half Moon Bay, and we were joking about the intentions, and the homily was so long. I was joking with my friend's son. I said, we pray that the homily will end. For this, we pray to the Lord, And then, like a couple months later, they went by the church, and they took a photo of it, and they sent it to me, and they said, "Oh, I think he's still preaching."
Yes,
it is just.
But see, Anne, you speak, you present. When you're losing your audience. When you see that look on their face and you're like, okay, wrap it up, change subjects, be more dynamic. You got to know your audience.
Yeah. Well, they often say when a homily or any talk, let's not just put in the homily. Yeah, any talk that goes on too long, it's because a person didn't prepare.
Right.
And so you kind of wonder, it is a very busy season. I think by the end, these, priests are probably out of gas.
Yes, very true.
I personally welcome different voices for the homilies. So I know that that's not necessarily possible, but gosh, there's probably some people who could give a meaningful homily. So
amen to that.
You struck a lot of nerves there, Haley. I think you said, I don't want to be judgy, but okay, in the spirit of constructive criticism, if that was something that was welcome, one, know your audience. Two, yeah, time, especially for people, anybody. I think it's like 7 minutes is our limit now, 7 to 8 minutes.
You can
That's,
deliver a
tight and
really,
right.
yeah, but you can deliver a really powerful message in 7 or 8 minutes.
You really can. What?
You're not diluting it. You're actually getting right to the
Yeah,
point.
yes. And then just, yeah, some topics, I believe you when you're like, I'm not afraid of talking about the devil, the evil one. That's not the point here. But it's also like there's sometimes the overshare, I don't know that I didn't hear you say that he overshared, but just, yeah, the context of some of that, that's tough. So,
It was a lot.
yep, yep, it's a lot. And a friend of mine has always said she thinks that it would be very beneficial if priests were anybody giving a homily was evaluated,
I remember you said that before, and I
right?
thought about that when I was sitting in church, thinking, this is the priest who needs that evaluation Anne was talking about.
Right. And it's like, how do you even broach that topic? Be like, hey, have you been evaluated? Or, you're not supposed to do that. I know from
I know.
golf, you're not supposed to give advice unless, asked. But yeah, I don't know. There's something there. Um,
Well, with the Feast of the Holy Family, and what he was trying to share was that we should all strive to be a family. What does make a family holy?
Another good question. Yeah, I think that's something I am always working on in terms of just accepting our family members
Yeah, that's a tough one.
for who they are. And, every family deals with that. When we're all together, we see our best sides and we see our limitations. And yeah, I was pretty frustrated at Christmas dinner and Christmas Eve because of the conversation. I just didn't find that it was in the spirit of Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hoping we would change the topic. And we kind of asked that it was. And one of my nieces then said, what was your favorite part of the trip? Because my brother, sister-in-law, and nieces flew out on Christmas night. So that was a great question because everybody has a different experience of a trip and what are the memories that they carry. So I told my mom this. I need to work on it, Haley, and I'm not trying to get to our takeaways, but they call it the art of conversation for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It is an art form. It is a skill. I often find when I'm engaged in a conversation with somebody at a meal and I am uncomfortable or like they just maybe dominate the conversation or they're talking too much about something I can't relate to. I'm Part of my problem is I'm not skillful enough to say, like, for example, what my niece did. Well, what was everyone's favorite part of the trip? Like, I'm not there yet. I'm working on it. Oftentimes I feel like I don't have anything to share at a conversation. And because I'm mindful of my audience, like I would like to talk about sports and I don't think everybody there wants to talk about it, so I'm not even going to do it. But what is what are some skillful ways that I can, I don't know, help? And my mom was talking about a friend of hers who only talks about her adult children,
Mm.
and my mom doesn't actually know her adult children, and so she's frustrated. And I think part of the art of conversation is saying, I appreciate that you love your kids so much. Do you mind if we but I don't really know them, and then diverting, but saying, so I said, common ground. Like, what is the
Yes.
common ground
Yes.
that my mom and her friend share? So, this is something I'm going to be working on. And to bring it back to the Holy Family, I think a Holy Family loves and accepts their family members, but also, like, what is the common ground in the family? What are some things that a family all loves? Like, we all love music. So,
Right.
yeah, maybe I could have diverted the conversation somehow. I'm not there yet, so I'm going to be working on it.
No, that is a great takeaway for 2025. And I do think it is an art. I think listening is an art. I think that's an important piece of the conversation. I have a family member that whenever I share something, they immediately respond with a comment about themselves and how it relates to them. No follow-up questions to me, no
Hmm.
questions inquiring about it.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think listening is an important part of the conversation skill as well. But also, you're right. Maybe we need to have a couple questions
Yeah.
under our sleeves that we can divert the conversation when we need to.
Yeah, and well, part of I appreciate the listening too, and part of the listening is just acknowledging because sometimes somebody will tell me something and I've taken it all in, but I'm not ready yet to like come back with a question. I'm still processing. And
Right.
so maybe it's just acknowledging that and be like, that's so interesting. And it's not that I don't want to ask a follow-up question. It's more like I need to kind of download this, what I've just heard.
Right.
So
Yes. Yes.
speaking of downloading, our homily for the Feast of the Holy Family was interesting. So we went to 12 o'clock mass. I have a friend in town, and the priest started with an image of a work of art, and it was an image of a donut. And then in the corner of the painting, it just said family. And I love donuts. So I thought, where are we going with this? And he's
Yeah.
like, the donut is a curious, um, you know, pastry, if you will. And then he said, part of it is that it's missing the middle. And he just kind of put it out there, and then he addressed the Holy Family and their reality, and then he did bring it back to the donut, and he said, "What's in the middle? The middle is love and all the things that make for." I don't know. Somehow it worked. I'm not going to do it justice, but I was worried that he was going to leave the donut hanging, and it's not a mystery to me what's in the middle because the donut is it's like the donut hole or whatever, but I appreciated I do like that he started with an image and it was like the hook, so to speak.
I was going to say,
And
I would have
then,
listened a
what
little
does make
longer.
for a holy family?
Yeah.
It was what makes for a holy family, and that's what's in the middle. It's the love or shared experiences, acceptance, respect. He talked about commandments, respect. So um, it's funny because my mother always quotes the fourth commandment, but my friend who's in town is a classmate of mine from Notre Dame, and he said, it's in the Old Testament, it's repeated that commandment, but there's a second line, and it's like parents don't or fathers don't provoke your children. So it's a mutuality that somehow we only hear, the one side. So we were joking that I might have to look that up just so next time my mom quotes it, just not that she's provoking us, but there's any relationship is a give and take. It's an exchange. So
Yes.
I thought that was mindful. And this friend of mine is from Chattanooga, Tennessee, very much identifies as a Southerner. And after Mass, he said, well, I want to talk to the priest. And he introduces himself with his first and last name. And he said, Yankees never do that. Yankees don't use their first and last names. And I just thought that was so interesting, whether or not that's true.
That is
But he
interesting.
always does give his first and last name. He's part of a family. You have a family name. I do it only because I like the sound of my first and last name together. And some people call me Ann Strickers because it just works. But I thought that was, I don't know. I gave some thought to the idea of when we introduce ourselves, what's to be said? Why not say your first and last name? You are part of a family.
So I need to pay more attention to that because I'm not sure I don't know if I've ever met anyone who's just said their first name, maybe at a party, maybe socially, but you're right. I always introduce myself first and last name.
Yeah. 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 And it could be just a conventional, casual type of thing.
Maybe.
So.
Maybe. All right. So for our takeaways as we wrap up 2024, and again, kudos to us for getting in our 24 episodes. It was an intentional effort. I won't say it was a difficult effort, but it was a mindful, intentional effort. So I have two resolutions. They both include books. One is a book that a friend gave to me last year that I did not pick up all year. And so I found it again when I was going through my gifts that I kind of have a place where I put gifts when I receive them or when I buy them that I intend to give. And I thought I need to do this. It's called What Matters Most and Why, Living the Spirituality of St. Ignatius Loyola. It is a daily reflection, a daily reading and a reflection based on Jesuit teachings, which I am new to, as you know, with my older son at Xavier and, again, kind of fascinated and being roped into the Jesuits. So I'm looking forward to that. And then that will be sort of my spiritual part of the year is the St. Ignatius Loyola book. There's also another book that a close family member is going to be reading. It's called The Year of Letting Go by an interesting author's name. It's lowercase r-h, last name is Sin. I think that's an author people know. They seem to have written a lot of books. I'm not familiar with this author, but it was just an interesting way that they wrote their name. So it's A Year of Letting Go. And
Yeah.
it is, again, daily reflections on helping us establish boundaries and really just sort of emotional relationships to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves emotionally. It is, again, I have a close family member that is reading this book, and I'm really doing it to support them, to have something to talk about with them, and so that we can share those conversations. But I am highly expecting to get something out of it myself. Do I feel like I have a lot of emotional boundaries I need to set? Not necessarily, but I'm sure I do. And I'm sure those will reveal themselves throughout the year. But again, this is really a partnership in supporting someone else who's really trying to set some boundaries. So looking forward to both of those. Again, one is more emotional, one's more spiritual, but they will include, committing to it every day. And I'm not sure how long it will take every day, but that is my goal for 2025.
I love that you set spiritual goals, and the emotional ones with those. I think that's so wise. I think that is something I would invite everyone to consider. What is the spiritual goal for the new year? Why are we not doing this? So thank you for consider that myself. I haven't heard of that book. It's someone who works in Jesuit education, so that's kind of exciting to me. I'm always looking for a new resource, and I'll look up that author's name. It is a provocative spelling, so there's an invitation there just to go a little deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of my, resolutions, I'm a big fan of them because I think we're always called to change and invited to change and be better. I Haley, I've just gotten, I don't know what the word is, but like a lot of, I'm sure you do too. We all do. We get a lot of emails, we get a lot of text messages. I read them, but I'm not great about just like
Mm.
sending out a reply, just giving the answer. Sometimes I just give too much. And, I'm like, oh, I want to say more. I want to include this photo or this article or this link. No, I want to be better about just sending back. The other thing is, I've noticed a couple of my friends will leave a voicemail. Okay. And it's not that I'm screening the call, but I won't listen to the whole voicemail. And then they'll have like, pertinent information in there. Like, hey, I have an idea of an event. Would you like to go to this? And I'm not hearing the whole message because I'm just like, oh, they called. I got to call them back. No, I need to, if somebody's communicating, it's
Mm-hmm.
just slowing down and making a point to read,
Mm-hmm.
to listen,
Mm-hmm.
and to respond. And I can do better. I know I can. I have a friend that gets very frustrated that I don't. She's like, it takes you like 3 hours to respond to a text. Yeah, it does sometimes, but I think that's okay. So I'm not
Yes.
saying like I'm just going to be Wonder Woman on my text. I don't know that I'm going to meet that standard, but I think I can do better. And I also think I can do better with just if it doesn't need to be, like I said, a diatribe or a dissertation. It can
Right.
just be a quick response. And sometimes that's all people need.
Yes, and that's the teacher in you, right? You are an educator, you are a teacher at heart. It is foundational to everything you do and say. And so my guess, so maybe that's the way you need to approach this is you don't always have to educate. You can just
Yeah.
respond.
Yes.
But I don't
Great
think
word.
you should be hard on yourself for taking 3 hours to respond to a text. That just means you're not glued to your phone for 3 hours. When you're
Yeah.
teaching, when you're working, when you're present with who you are with, it's okay to not respond to a text. If you're out to
Yeah.
dinner with friends, if you're watching a football game and engaging in, conversation with who you are present with, it really is okay to not respond to that text right away.
Yeah.
If it's really important, they'll pick up the phone and call you. If they need that immediate response, they're gonna pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
So there's two pieces there. One, give yourself some grace and know that you are very present with who you are with. But on the flip side, know that it really is okay to say, yep, sounds good, or yes, I agree, as opposed to feeling like you do always have to educate. But I get that. That's who we are as women. It's who we are as educators.
Yeah. So true. Well, and we talked about the art of conversation, and maybe this is called the art of communication.
Yes.
And it's knowing, because you're right. She did say, I know if I need something, I just pick up the phone and call you.
Yep.
And I thought, yep. I mean, that's for anybody. If you want an immediate answer, if you're okay with, waiting, then you don't use the phone. But the phone is going to get you to,
Right.
Well, it doesn't get you to
but there are people I know, if they're calling me, I'm picking up because they don't normally call. Right.
That's true. Right.
Yes.
And that could be.
So I know in the past, Anne,
that's what I'll be working on for 2025.
Okay, great. And I know in the past you have always read for 20 minutes a day. I've known you for several years now. You tend to have a 24 for 24, 20 for 20, 19 for 19. Have you decided what your 25 in 2025 will be yet? You've got a couple more days.
I do. And so Gretchen Rubin, the podcast host of Happier, the Happiness Project, she and her sister, they are to blame for this, and they are to credit. I love it. So their goal this year is 25 minutes of reading. Now, I don't mean to be skeptical here, but part of it is they're sponsored by a book. There's some sort of sponsorship behind the 25.
Okay.
So I'm saying that with a little bit of, okay. But I love it and I want to do it. I'm ready for 25. So let's do it. So they went so far as to say, you will read, likely this many that's this many minutes. If you do 25 minutes every day, the number of minutes for the year is profound. And just think of how many books you'll read. So I think I'm going to just take on the 25 minutes.
Okay.
For 2025.
That would be a difficult goal for me. So kudos to you. I think that's a great thing to strive for. However, I could listen to 25 minutes a day. I do that probably anyway, but sitting down.
I was going to say,
I could do that.
Yeah. And they said that counts. They went through all these different things. Just a book on tape for 2025. Do you even call it book on tape, Haley? Do you call it audiobook?
Audiobooks. Yeah.
Yes. So one guy said 25 acts of kindness for 2025. I thought that was super cool. It's not hard, but it's really being intentional about it.
Yes, it is. So, yes, I would hope I would do more than that, but at least that's a good baseline. And again, it means you're being mindful and thinking of it. True.
Yeah. So, let's play with the idea. And for our listeners, think about 25. There's also 25 new things you can try in 2025. I did look at my list from last year. There's some things I did, some I didn't. They do like a half-year review.
Okay.
July 1, they say, okay, where are you at with this 25? And, where would you like to be? So I could, for example, write down my resolutions. I mean, that's just very specific, but it could be like, I want to learn to play canasta. It's a card game. Okay. So that is something I can easily measure and achieve. All right. I want to paint my living room. Okay. Great. So 25 things to do for 2025.
25 things to do. Well, it's been a great 2024. I have really enjoyed reconnecting and doing our 24 episodes. I'm going to go on a limb here and say that it's probably not the end here of the Faith Fondue podcast. So we'll have to figure out and reimagine what that looks like for 2025. But Anne, I hope you've enjoyed these last 24 episodes as much as I have. I know it's been a great 2024. I look forward to 2025 and continuing to share with you and our listeners.
Likewise, it's been a real gift. Thank you for, so much of working with somebody is in partnership with them is appreciating like your leadership, your initiative, right? None of us we just can't do it alone. That's when you have a partner that you can trust and you care about, then knowing those times I may slack, or I don't feel like you've ever slacked, Haley, but give me the grace to just reschedule or reboot. So I'm appreciative of all that. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Here is to slacking sometimes, relaxing, resting over break. taking care of ourselves emotionally, spiritually, but most of all, focusing on our relationships and treasuring those. And I certainly do in 2025.
Amen.
Amen. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.